Thank you. So last week I asked you guys for a favor that had to do with the channel, some behind the scenes stuff that was conflicting with it and YouTube, simply by just liking last week's video, and that actually did help. It actually helped the situation. There was like an engagement issue that I won't get into too much, but just, you know, as an update, thank you for helping out with that last week. That won't be like an every week thing either, so that's why I also do appreciate that you guys did decide to do it last week, but you don't have to do it every week. We're just going to jump immediately into the video this time, but I want to say thank you. Thank you for liking last week's video and helping fix a whole kind of situation that we should be fine now when it comes to new videos and going forward with YouTube and the algorithm and all that other stuff. So, with that being said, we do have something to talk about with Let's Talk Jinx this week, because when I made last week's video, the patch was like delayed a day, I believe, and so by the time the full list of changes came out, the video was already up. And it turns out, now the patch notes are out, and we're gonna go look at those too, there's been some other things that have been done to Jinx that we definitely need to talk about. So I'm gonna switch scenes here in a second, and we're gonna jump into those right now. So here we are, patch 11.3 notes, and every week, like we always do, we're going to talk about changes to Jinx and other AD carries that might affect like Jinx's lane matchups. And usually, for the longest, we could only really talk about the matchup changes because they weren't really touching Jinx. But in the patch notes, it actually even mentions Jinx by name. Let me highlight it real quick too, in case you can't see my mouse. But basically, I'll probably need my reading glasses for this, hang on. Then it's the usual champion balance with some sizzle for Jinx, who's been wanting to crash back into the scene for a while now, and then some for like AP Shyvana and things like that. So basically what they decided was, hey, if we scroll down here and we start off with Jinx, I believe, yeah, here it is. It's like, the new item changes have not been kind to Jinx. We wanted to make some priority adjustments to the items in general before tackling her now, and now it's finally time. Additionally, since she's been primarily out of pro play for a while now, we're shifting some of her kit's power into raw stats to her abilities to create more room for skill expression. And so one of the reasons I want to start with this is because the last couple of videos before the Jinx buff started coming in, we talked about that. We talked about like I know how Riot works now. I've been doing these videos for years now. They want to try and buff things around a champion before they can buff a champion if they can help it. Because they don't want to get into a situation where they buff that champion, it was preemptive, and then have to nerf that champion later, which is also why they actually have they kind of snuck in a nerf here, which I will talk about that in a second too. But essentially, that's why they did the changes to like Runon's Hurricane, the Kraken Slayer, the Gale Force. They wanted to try and see if they could buff Jinx up without directly touching Jinx, but no, they couldn't. Jinx was in a situation where no, you had to actually directly help Jinx out, and fortunately, they did. I gotta get, why did I take these off? I'm an idiot. Essentially, what they did was the base health has been decreased, but the Q bonus range has been increased, which is fish bones. The bonus attack speed penalty has actually been decreased. That was not in the last episode. The E cost has been increased. That was not in last week's episode. But the arm time has been decreased. Missed last week's episode. And the max range cast has been adjusted. Basically, what they've done here, and I'll explain why they snuck in some nerfs. Let's start with the buffs, though. So the bonus range was 75, 100, 125, 150, 175. Now it's 100, 125, 150, 175, and 200. Basically, 25 extra range when you're using Q. And we talked about that, like bullying and stuff like that. Like you can bully people from further away now than you could before. And the bonus, I should probably just leave these on, to be honest. Fishbone's bonus attack range penalty was 25%, it's dropping to 10%. So this is a change for the OG. Here we go again. This is a change for the OGs. If you remember back in like season 5, here I go again on my old back in season 5 soapbox, but back then, they did a nerf to Jinx in late season 5. It wasn't like the 5.10 or 5.12 or 5.8 nerfs. It was the 5.22 nerf. What they decided to do was when you ramp up your attack speed on your minigun and you switch to your rocket form, you would lose like 25% attack speed, and your attack speed could never be as high as your minigun attack speed. They felt like that was one of the things back in season 5 that made Jinx very broken at the time, because she was in pro play a lot, especially because that's when Tahm Kench came out, and Tahm Kench made Jinx a very safe lane. So it just a lot of Jinx's weaknesses were covered too, so they had to hit her strengths. With that being said, what this basically means, if you were around back then, you'll remember what this means. It means that rockets are going to be faster, kind of like they used to be back like half a decade ago. For the new people, in which case they've always been slow, it means when you switch to your rocket form, your DPS with your rockets is going to be better, which means it's going to justify staying in rocket form when you're DPSing the enemy team from a safer distance, but you're still also DPSing them down at 15% faster attack speed. Not quite the full 25%, because we don't want to see Season 5 Jinx back ever again in life, but we'll take what we can can get. I'm not actually complaining about this. What I am going to talk about is why they put in some nerfs in here too. So like, for example, the mana cost for the Flame Chompers is going up, and also the health. The base health is going down from 610 to 550. It's almost as squishy as Sona, for Pete's sake. Here's the reason, and I'm talking about this because I went to August's stream, because August was doing Viego streams, but he also wanted to do some Jinx streams, and he didn't get the chance to at the time, but there's still conversation around Jinx. And this isn't verbatim from him, but the general idea is like, by putting these nerfs in there with the buffs, what it allows them to hopefully do is do these buffs and not have to do follow-up nerfs later. Like basically Jinx gets to keep all of this. All of this gets to just stay as a buff and nothing has to be tuned or tweaked or reduced later by slapping things like that on earlier. Furthermore, in the patch notes they explain they also want to see her possibly able to be picked up in pro play. And pro play, things like base health and stuff like that matter a whole heck of a lot. So it matters to like, it even matters down in bronze and iron, don't get me wrong, but it also matters like at a high skill level like that, like every bit of health and things like that can definitely matter when making decisions about compositions and fights and trades and game stocks and all of that stuff too. Speaking of trades. But anyways, yes. With all that being said, that's why they did have to sneak like some nerfs in there. It wasn't just pure buffs, because they don't want to have to nerf Jinx later. They're at the point where like, no, we just kind of want to give Jinx some love and let it be. And by doing this, at least that's what their logic is. Now, it's going to actually play out, we're going to have to wait and see. But that's like what their logic is. They're not in there like, oh, we didn't just want to purely buff Jinx because screw Jinx. It was like, we want this to be able to stick and not have to be nerfed later. And by doing these nerfs, what we're hoping is that's going to be the case. So with the Flame Chompers, here we go again. That's why the mana cost is increased, but the arm time is down to a half second. It's not even 0.7 seconds, it's just 0.5 seconds. But the cast range, when casting Flame Chompers, further than max range, and now cast to the max range instead of causing you to walk into range and then cast them. So essentially, and I don't have a lot of things to measure with, but let's say, I don't know how this is showing up for y'all, but let's say this was the max range of the Flame Chompers, right? This part of my glasses. Let's say you're here and you're trying to cast the Chompers over here for some reason. You'll just cast them to here immediately instead of Jinx having to walk forward and then cast them. Because here's the thing, when you combine even the split second of having to walk forward with the 0.7 seconds, that adds up. And suddenly it's like, why did I even bother trying to deploy them at that point? It's not going to save me from anything. Like they're kind of supposed to. They are supposed to be like a self-peel tool. They're not supposed to be the greatest self-peel tool because Jinx is a hyper carry, and historically Riot likes to make sure hyper carries have to be well defended to survive instead of survive by themselves, unless you're Tristana, because Tristana, I don't know. But anyways, that's their idea. They kind of, it's like in video games, you have to like escort a bomb or a tank or something to a certain like situation so the tank can then blow something up, right? It's like that idea. That's their idea of philosophy kind of with hyper carries. You want to protect the hyper carry, because if you protect the hyper carry, they'll destroy everything. So you don't need to have a lot of self-peel tools. But in a world where there's so many like mobility nowadays, it feels like maybe that will change. But that's why that, like, even a little bit of an addition to the decrease in the arm time can matter, combined with this whole max range thing. It's actually really great. You can just cast those immediately instead of the walk and everything, and it's cool. It's good. It's a good change, I think. Now, in terms of Jinx and like the rest of the patch, we'll run that down and then we'll come back to Jinx, right? Because like Ezreal, if she's going against Ezreal in lane, his Q damage ratio is being increased. Basically, Ezreal has not been faring well with the new item system. When is Ezreal ever faring well with any item system? I feel like that's never the case ever, so go figure. But if you're getting hit by Qs, it's going to hurt more. But again, you can outrange him a bit more, so he has to come closer to you than you have to him, so maybe that won't be happening. Let's see, there's another change down here for Karma. I don't think it's support Karma. No, bring good Karma to support Karma. Oh, it is support Karma change. So the base amount of regen is increased, the Q cost is decreased. So if the Karma's on your team, she's going to be harassing more because she has more mana regen. But if she's not on your team, she might be harassing you more with poking you with the Q and stuff. Be wary of that. Let's see what else we got in here. Pantheon support? Probably not. Rammus, Rel. The W1 and W2 damage ratio is being increased, the E damage ratio increased, Unbind cooldown decreased, cooldown bug fixed, long distance pathing bug fixed, R damage ratio increased. Seems like there's a lot more damage. So Rel is kind of in a place where they're buffing her a bit. So again, on your team, the better Leona is going to be doing work. But on the enemy team, the better Leona is going to be messing you up. Be careful. Coordinate though, because it looks like there's a lot of the CC. I believe this is the CC stuff that's actually being buffed. With the Flame Chompers buff, that could be a nice CC combo. And the better Leona can now beat the bad Leona when you let her through pick man. There you go. Bad Leona is just regular Leona. But not like Michael Jackson bad. Like just bad. Sorry, Leona. Seraphine. I don't know if this is support Seraphine, so we'll just say passive base, note damage decreased, and W shield decreased. Nerfs. Seraphine. If they're on your team, there you go. Singed. I don't think people are playing support Singed anymore. Udyr, who's the winner of the rework. I didn't make a video about that, but I should have. Let's see. That's actually it for all the matchup possible changes. I'm looking at items really quick because I don't think there's 80 carry item changes specifically, but we'll still look just in case I'm wrong. Like Phantom Dancer has some changes, but Lord Dominic's Regards, the armor penetration is going up. Immortal Shield Bow, I think of the 3 items, Jinx uses this one the least. But the attack damage is going up by 5, and the attack speed is going up by 5%. Keep that in mind. Phantom Dancer, it looks like the build path is being changed. The attack damage is actually going up to 20, so if you do build that, you'll get some attack damage out of it. The attack speed is going down, though, to 25%. Basically, it's becoming what Runon's Hurricane was for a bit before they changed that back. So there we go. Are they actually nerfing Gore Drinker? Let's see. Kind of, but not really. Yeah, the Gore Drinker. Yeah. So that being said, we're gonna conclude by talking about Jinx a little bit more, and just the fact of like, what do you think of these changes? Like at the end of the day, what do you think of these changes? I like them. I don't think they're gonna make Jinx like the most powerful AD carry or even like an S tier AD carry, but I like them because I think my bottom line for these changes, and you can disagree, but for me, what I think these changes do is they really empower like experienced Jinx players. I think that's what these changes are for. It's like Merry Christmas to those of you who are still playing Jinx, basically. And that's what I see when I see these changes. Like again, this is a change only OGs are gonna really remember and feel the most. Obviously it's a buff regardless, but like from way back when you used to play Jinx and used to feel like it melt through teams and tanks, that was part of the reason why you could be a bit safer with the rockets. So I think that's really going to matter for stuff like that. I mean, it's all a good buff in terms of like, even if you're a new Jinx player, but I feel like it's kind of like when they nerf a champion in a way that makes you go, that's not really a nerf, except it is a nerf for people that are playing the champion because they're flavor of the month, but it's not a nerf for people that are mains of that champion. It's not supposed to be. They want to nerf the flavor of the month off of the champion and allow mains to still play it. That's when I see these changes, what I think they are supposed to be and what they kind of are. I know the patch note says like pro play and stuff. I really don't think these changes are going to send Jinx into pro play. I don't want to be pessimistic. It's my job to be optimistic. I don't see that happening here. But I do see it feeling good to play Jinx again because these are like feel good changes, almost like quality of life, more so than even buffs, but like they are buffs, like, you know, increased range, increased attack speed, less arm time. That's like, I mean, that is a buff, but it feels more like quality of life stuff. It's just gonna make it feel good to play Jinx again. I could be wrong. What is your experience? Comment in the comment section down below. But that is all from this video from me. So thank you so much for watching this video. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe. Hit that bell notification, the actual subscribe button. But I don't know which video will be next, because I can have a lot of kinks. So until next time, take care. ggGetJinxed. Thank you for watching, and enjoy pizza responsibly. 9-foot tall vampire lady.